Welcome to Screen Recap, your shortcut to movie magic. We break down the best films in minutes, keeping it fast, fun, and packed with all the essentials. The movie begins with a father named Michael leaving the house and riding his bike to a clothing store. He considers buying a Spider-Man costume for Halloween and spends some time looking at it. Then he knocks on the store door for the owner to let him in, but the man tells him the store is still closed. Michael doesn't understand and keeps insisting, but the man is adamant that the store is not open yet. Eventually, Michael leaves, but as he's walking away, someone bumps into him, almost causing him to lose his money. After retrieving it, he gets back on his bike and heads to school. When he arrives, he parks his bike and hides his money in his shoe before entering. In class, Michelle secretly films Stella, the girl he likes, but stops when she notices him. The teacher also catches him with his phone, confiscates it, and asks if he wants to repeat the year like the bully named Ivan. Michael doesn't respond, but Ivan finds the situation amusing and jokes with his friend Brando. The school principal enters the classroom and announces that Police Inspector Giovanna wants to speak with them. Giovanna greets the students and asks if anyone knows anything about their missing classmate Martino. Ivan and Brando make jokes, but Giovanna ignores them and emphasizes that anyone who has seen or heard anything about Martino should inform the police immediately. After she finishes, an officer from her team hands her something, and she suddenly looks at Michelle, who appears nervous. At that moment, Giovanna approaches his desk and tells him he forgot his lunch. Michelle, embarrassed, takes his lunch and thanks her, calling her Mom. After Giovanna leaves, Ivan and Brando tease Michelle because his mother brought him lunch to school. Michelle ignores them but notices his nose starts bleeding. He quickly leaves to clean himself up in the bathroom, where he hears a noise and hides in one of the stalls. After a while, Ivan and Brando break part of the stall door, drag him out, and demand money. Despite Michelle saying he doesn't have any, they search his shoe and find the costume money. Michelle feels upset but is too scared to complain. Ivan gives him a chance to run, and Michelle tries to escape but ends up falling in front of other students who laugh at him. Later, Michelle returns home, where his sister Candela seems happy to see him. Michelle, wanting to be alone, goes to the kitchen and greets the cook, who tells him there's food. However, he says he's not interested after learning his mom made it. In his room, he opens his computer and looks at Stella's social media page, contemplating whether to send her a friend request. Meanwhile, Candela keeps asking him how no one recognizes Superman, but Michelle doesn't respond. After sending the friend request to Stella, he checks his box for money but only finds a small amount. He wants to buy a Halloween costume to attend Stella's party. Eventually, he goes to a nearby store to buy a cheap costume. The shop owner offers him a costume of an ancient Chinese superhero. Although Michelle doesn't like it, the man convinces him it looks good. Michelle asks about the superhero's powers, and the man tells him he'll discover them on his own. Meanwhile, Giovanna receives a video of Martino telling his parents he's leaving because he's tired of home. Giovanna doesn't understand why he did this and finds it strange since he's a smart boy. That night, she returns home and sees Michel wearing his Halloween costume, looking depressed. She asks why he didn't go to the party, and he says he doesn't like the costume because he doesn't even know who the superhero represents. Giovanna doesn't think it's a big deal and says a superhero can be a good person who fights real crime. Michelle asks if that's like his father, and Giovanna tells him his father also fought criminals but was just a police officer like her before he passed away. Michelle continues to debate whether to attend the party, and Giovanna encourages him to go. Eventually, Michelle decides to go. When he arrives, Stella is happy to see him and compliments his outfit. Brando notices Michelle and asks about his costume, to which Michelle replies that it's a Chinese superhero costume. Stella says it looks nice and mentions she has visited China before. Stella asks Michelle how long he'll stay in town and says she hopes to stay a long time because she loves being near the sea. Michelle likes the idea, but as they talk, they suddenly notice the guests gathering around the TV. When they approach, Stella sees a video of herself on the screen. Brando reveals he got the videos from Michelle's phone after the teacher confiscated it earlier that day. Stella looks at Michelle, who feels deeply embarrassed and runs to the bathroom. Upset about what happened, he complains about his costume and says he doesn't know what to do. Suddenly, lightning strikes the area, and Michelle decides to leave through the window and head home, feeling defeated. The next morning, Michelle wakes up to find his dog staring at him strangely. Ignoring it, he goes to the bathroom to brush his teeth. Looking in the mirror, he discovers he has become invisible. Michelle is shocked and doesn't know what to do. When his mother enters the room and doesn't see him, she asks where he is. He quickly writes her a note saying he went to school, prompting her to leave. Michel wraps himself in clothes and decides to go to school, but as he stands outside the building, he changes his mind, thinking he's become a bad person now that he's invisible. Before leaving, he sees Ivan putting a starter pistol in his bag, which gives Michel an idea. Michel enters the classroom, takes the pistol from Ivan's bag, and fires a shot at the board near the teacher. He then leaves the pistol with Ivan, making everyone think Ivan was responsible. The teacher scolds him. Meanwhile, Michel sneaks into the teacher's office and writes the correct answers on his exam paper to get a good grade. Later, he sabotages Brando during a tennis match, causing him to lose, which angers Brando's father. In the locker room, Michel plays a prank by moving a tennis ball, scaring Brando. Feeling pleased, Michel leaves the school and notices some girls heading to the locker room. He follows them inside. When one of the girls throws a towel on the bench, it falls on Michel. The girls realize someone is under the towel and are shocked. Unfortunately, Michel's powers start to weaken, and he becomes visible again, leaving him embarrassed. When the girls remove the towel, they see Michel and scream loudly. The school principal finds out, and Giovanna comes to take him home. In the car, Giovanna tells him that she doesn't understand why he entered the girls' changing room, and also tells him that he was about to be expelled from school, but Michel doesn't respond to her. The next day at school, a psychologist working with the police named Basile arrives and announces that Brando is missing. He advises the students to express their feelings instead of running away from them. Everyone looks at Michel mockingly because of what happened the day before. Suddenly, Michel notices that he has started disappearing again. He covers his arms and waits for the bell to ring so he can leave the classroom. When he returns home, he finds Candela in his room. He quickly turns to the wall and asks her to leave. She doesn't understand why he's kicking her out, but she pretends to leave, opening and closing the door again. As he takes off his clothes, Candela sees that he has become invisible and screams loudly. Michel quickly asks her to stop screaming, and she agrees. He tells her that this power is likely because of his superhero-like suit. Candela tells him it looks like magical pajamas that make people invisible for a while. Michel is upset about his new powers, but Candela tells him that he's now a superhero and can save people from danger. Michel responds that no one needs saving, but Candela insists that he should call himself the Invisible Boy. The next day, Basile tells Giovanna and the police that he doesn't see anything unusual in the disappearance of Brando and Martino. He explains that the boys might have run away from the pressures they were facing at home. Giovanna suspects there's more to it, but Basile confirms that from the messages the boys sent to their families, it's clear they weren't kidnapped. After a long time, Giovanna returns home, and Michel is reading a book about superheroes. When she enters his room, she sees that he quickly took off his clothes, so she thinks he's not there. When she goes to her room, she calls someone to complain about Michel's behavior, saying she feels that he knows he's not her biological son and that he's adopted. Michel is shocked when he hears this, but doesn't say anything. He goes to the beach to think about what he heard. Stella is there and sees a swing moving on its own. She approaches and asks who's there, whether it's a ghost or an angel. Michel draws a smiling face on the ground. Stella asks if that's what he looks like, but he doesn't reply. She invites him to swing with her, and he does. She asks him to be her friend, and Michel agrees. He's surprised and asks if she isn't afraid of him. She replies that she's not. After a while, she remembers she has to leave for her training and asks if she'll see him again. He says yes, and she leaves. Michel is happy, but suddenly he sees a strange blind man watching him, even though he's still invisible. The man walks away, leaving Michel confused. The next day at school, Michel apologizes to Stella for what happened, but she tells him it's okay. He notices that she's drawing a smiling face on her book, which makes him happy. That night, he sneaks into her house and she lets him in after. Zrania, and she lets him in after he draws a smiling face on her window. She asks him many questions about himself, and he notices that he's starting to become visible again, so he quickly escapes. He returns home, and Candela encourages him to tell Stella the truth. He decides to take her advice. Meanwhile, Stella is training at the gym with her mother but is distracted and makes many mistakes. Her mother leaves to get coffee, and while Stella is alone, a man appears and knocks her out with a sedative. When she loses consciousness, he kidnaps her and leaves. Michel arrives and sees what happened. He tries to stop the man but can't do anything. After the man leaves, Michel calls the police. He tells Giovanna that he feels guilty for not being able to save Stella, but she reassures him and tells him they will find her. Elsewhere, Stella is in a lab where experiments are being conducted on her. After they finish, they tell their leader that she's not who they're looking for. The guards move her to a hiding place where she sees Brando and Martino. The next day, Michel discovers that his suit is missing, but he learns that Giovanna washed it, and now it's smaller. When Candela tries it on, it doesn't make her invisible. Michel confronts Giovanna angrily about the suit. Giovanna says she washed it because it was dirty, but Michel doesn't care, and tells her he hates her, which shocks her. The housekeeper asks Michel not to talk to Giovanna that way, but Michel says she's not his mother. Giovanna is stunned when she hears this, but before she can respond, Michel leaves and breaks a glass behind him. He then goes to the sea to calm himself. The man he met earlier approaches him and tells him that the suit has nothing to do with his powers. Michel is surprised and asks if he kidnapped Stella, but the man denies it. Michel realizes that the man can read his thoughts and asks how he did that. The man says his name is André and claims to be Michel's father. Michel says his father is dead, but André says that's what he was told. Andre then tells him about a nuclear radiation incident in Russia long ago that gave some people superpowers. These people were called the Specials and were taken to be experimented on for military purposes. In the camp, Andre met Yelena, Michelle's mother, and they fell in love. When they had Michelle, they decided to escape so their son wouldn't become part of the experiments. Soldiers pursued them, so Yelena told Andre to escape with Michelle while she stayed behind to buy time. Unfortunately, the leader discovered her location and killed her. Andre continues, saying he fled with Michelle and searched for a safe place until he left Michelle with Giovanna. Michelle realizes he inherited his mother's powers but remains skeptical of Andre's story. He asks if Andre can freely read people's minds, and Andre confirms this. Meanwhile, Giovanna is worried that Michelle hasn't returned home. When Detective Basile sees her, he asks what happened. She tells him that Michelle said she's not his mother and feels like he knows things about her. Suddenly, they receive a report about a strange man with a boy, so they head to the location. Before the police arrive, Andre teaches Michelle how to control his powers and erases the hunter's memory. He gives Michelle a suit that allows him to be invisible without taking off his clothes. When the police arrive, Andre decides to leave, telling Michelle that they'll stay connected because their minds are linked. He warns him about the villains behind the Russian experiments, as they know about him and want to capture him. After the police question the hunter, Giovanna asks Michelle to come home. Basile takes him home, and Michelle tries on the new suit in his room. When Basile enters the room, Michelle quickly hides the suit and goes downstairs for dinner. While they're eating, Michelle notices bloodstains on Basile's shirt and realizes he's dangerous. Basile tries to stop him from escaping and tells him that if he calls the police, his friends will die. But Michelle uses his powers to escape, and Basile remains impressed by Michelle's strength and tells him he resembles his mother. Michelle doesn't care and escapes, but Basile locks him in his room. Michelle uses his secret bed to escape. Outside, he sees Ivan on his bike, stops him, and asks him to run away together. Ivan is confused because he's talking to someone invisible, but Michelle insists they must leave. After a while, Giovanna arrives home and finds the place messy. She wonders what happened. Andre knocks on her door and she goes out to meet him. At the same time, Stella discovers she can leave the hideout and tries to seek help. Brando and Martino help her move, and she quietly steps out to find her way to the light beacon. A bit farther away, Ivan stops the bike, and Michelle tells him the truth. Ivan is shocked, but Michelle explains their friends are in danger and that Basile is one of the villains. Ivan ADME admits he suspected the psychiatrist because he's dealt with many like him before. When Michelle asks why, Ivan says he has ADH and was thinking about how to find their missing friends. By coincidence, Stella reaches the beacon, draws a smiley face on it, and directs it toward the sky. Michelle sees it and understands she's trying to send him a message. When they head toward the light, they discover their friends are held captive on a ship, but someone grabs Stella and turns off the beacon. Ivan and Michelle fear she's been captured. Michelle uses his ability to vanish and plans to enter the ship. Ivan strikes the power unit to trigger an alarm to distract the guards. Inside the ship, Michelle sees a room with Basile and another person watching a video from Giovanna's car. In the video, Andre thanks her for being a good mother to Michelle. She realizes Michelle is in danger, and Michelle accidentally knocks something over in the room. Basile and his companion hear the sound and go out to investigate. Michelle follows them. As he tries to open the cage, he finds someone on the other side unlocking it. He sees Stella being moved to another cage. After locking her up, Michelle attacks the guards, frees Stella and the children, locks the guards in the cage, and makes Stella and the kids happy with their freedom. Then, Michelle removes his mask and reveals himself. Stella is shocked and tells him she didn't know it was him. Michelle confirms it, but before they can talk further, Brando and Martino say they need to leave. Before they move, Stella mentions a man who needs rescuing on the other side of the ship. Michelle says he can go alone, but Stella suggests going with him since she knows where the man is. Brando and Martino start searching for an exit, and Stella takes Michelle to see the man she was talking about. When they see the man, Stella moves closer to Michelle and points a gun at him. Michelle is shocked and asks if she's one of them. She tells him she's not Stella. Michelle doesn't understand what's happening, but the man they tried to rescue suddenly touches her, and she loses consciousness. The man introduces himself as Claw and says he can make people do whatever he wants just by touching them. He talks to Michelle about his abilities and says they are alike. Michelle vanishes and begins attacking the guards in an attempt to escape. Before he can flee, Claw tells him he won't be able to escape and threatens to kill Stella if he tries anything else. He adds that he lost Michelle once at home and won't let it happen again. Michelle says he was never at his home, but Claw says he was there under the name Basile. He adds that he touched Basile and Stella to make them follow his orders. Michelle still refuses to be part of Claw's plans and speaks his mind, but Claw orders his men to deploy the submarine from the ship to escape. Then he tells Michelle it's time to leave, and that his mother is waiting for them. Michelle says Yelena is dead, but Claw says she's still alive and has become one of them. He adds that she ordered him to bring Michelle back to her. Elsewhere, Giovanna and Andre find Avon and take him to the ship. Before entering Giovanna, Andre senses Michelle isn't inside the ship. He also notices a bomb in the ship that's about to explode. Before leaving, Giovanna sees Martino and Brando asking for help. She rescues them and opens another door on the ship, finding Basili inside. He appears very innocent and thanks her for saving him. But she's angry and asks him about her son. Basili says he doesn't know what she's talking about. Giovanna doesn't believe him. Then Andre arrives and says Basili isn't lying. He insists they must leave the ship because the bomb will explode. As soon as they leave, the ship indeed explodes. Giovanna shows concern for Michelle. In the submarine, Klaue says Stella will return to her people in a safety capsule. He explains that Mikkel isn't an ordinary person and is much more important than he realizes. He adds that the special forces are not like humans who waste their lives. When Stella enters the capsule, Klaue says it's for the best because Michelle will be part of a suitable family, not one with ordinary people. Michelle is unhappy with this. As his anger rises, he begins breaking things in the submarine. Klaue's shocked by what's happening, but Michelle keeps going until he causes an explosion. He enters the safety capsule. As he closes the door, Klaue tells him Yelena will be upset with him, but Michelle responds that his mother is dead. The capsule takes him and Stella to the surface. When they return to land, everyone is happy about their return and admires Michel's abilities. As he sneezes, Giovanna quickly gives him a blanket and looks relieved he's alive. At that moment, Andre leaves and Michel tells Giovanna he's going to meet his father. Michel tries to make him stay, but he says he has to go and that they'll stay in touch, and he'll know when his son needs him. Michel asks why